Did you ever hear anybody say, you're going to work yourself to death? Did you know that it can actually happen? Maybe you saw this in the news. This past August, a Bank of America intern in London was found dead in his apartment after working 72 hours straight. He'd done 3 all-dayer, all-nighters in a row. 72 hours straight, apparently just goes home after work and collapsed in the shower. Died. According to other interns working for the company, 100-hour work weeks are common. One intern said this, "Work-life balance is bad." Really, you think? But he said, we all know this is going on. But this intern they were quoting also added that despite the huge amount of time spent at work and that somebody had died from it, he said that he, quote unquote, enjoyed it greatly. Scary, huh? I mean, next time somebody says, don't work too hard, that might be better advice than you think. Now, odds are most of us aren't working 100 hours a week. But how many here would say that in general, you're just too busy? Show of hands, please. How many would say, yeah, I'd say I'm too busy? Yeah. So much of the time it feels like there's just not enough hours in the day. There's just no room in our lives for all the things we need and things that we want to do. So that's why we're doing this series we're doing called Making Room for Life. Jesus said this thing, and we love it. It's really inspiring. He said that he came so that we would have life and have it to the full. But full doesn't mean our schedules. Full means full of things that really matter. And making room in our lives for the things that matter in our life, that's what this series is about. Forrest Gump said life's like a box of chocolates, and in this series we've been saying life's like a jar of rocks. I know, not quite as catchy, but it's true. Life's like this jar, and there's big rocks. There's things that really matter and are really important. And there's also small rocks. There's things that do need to get done, but they're just not as important in the big picture of things. And the trouble is, when we put the small rocks in the jar first, there's not enough room left in the jar for all the big rocks. And something important gets left out. What if what gets left out is taking care of your physical health or your relationship with God, just because there was not enough room in the jar? So we've talked about making room for God through public and private celebration, being in services on the weekend and having daily times of personal prayer. We call that making room for God. We've talked about making room for people, but particularly the people that we are on mission for God with through small groups. So we talked about that. We've talked about making room for doing what God wants us to do with our time and our talents and our resources to bless the world, which last weekend we called making room for mission. And today we're talking about making room for rest. Rest. I just like saying rest. But I don't mean rest just in terms of relaxing and kicking back, or crashing. It includes that, but it's more than that. The kind of rest we need to make room for is a kind of rest called Sabbath. Sabbath. Somebody say Sabbath. I mean, you might recognize the word Sabbath from the Ten Commandments. God says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now, originally, the Sabbath was the 7th day of the week. And the command said this. It said, 6 days you shall labor, and on the 7th day you shall rest. But we're not talking about just returning to the Old Testament practice, of not working on the 7th day of the week per se. We're talking about making room in our lives for times when we intentionally don't do certain things so we can do other important things that we can only do when we rest. And we might think we need to make room for rest because if we don't, well, this might happen.
Well, Super Tuesday in the rear view mirror, and the results show a little something for everybody. Doug Lazater is live in D.C. with the update on all of this. Doug, good morning. Good to see you. I guess 6-3-1, pretty much the way it breaks down, eh? Maybe. Hello, Doug. Hi, Doug. I guess not.
That's funny right there. I don't care who you are. But got to understand something. Making room for rest is about so much more than just, not being so exhausted that we fall asleep at the wrong time. It's about more than that. Making room for rest is about making room for good things in our lives that we don't have room for when we're always getting stuff done and being so busy. There's a phrase for it in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the word for Sabbath is the word Shabbat, and the word for peace is Shalom. And they put these two together and they call it Sabbath peace, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Learning some Hebrew today. Shabbat Shalom. That's what this is about. And here's what I hope you'll get today. I hope I'll get it too. God wants us to reorder the rocks in the jars of our lives in such a way that we work from a place of rest instead of resting from a place of work. Work from a place of rest instead of resting from a place of work. See, we usually rest from a place of work. We work, go, and then we rest so we can work, and go, some more. That's resting from a place of work. Rest ends up being something you do that you kind of have to do just so you can get back at it again. But Shabbat Shalom, but working from a place of rest is different. Working from a place of rest, what it really is about, well, I think a story is the best way to tell you this. Let me tell you a story, read you a story from the Bible. Then Jesus went around teaching from village to village, calling the 12, the disciples, the first followers, calling the 12 to him, he began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them authority over impure spirits. Now, that might sound a little creepy to us, authority over impure spirits. But overall, think about that. Power over demonic forces? I think that's cool. And they start doing it. They go out and they're casting out evil spirits and they're healing sicknesses and they're helping people find God. And then they come back to Jesus, and the story says this. It says that the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all that they had done and taught. I picture this kind of being like a bunch of junior high boys talking about a big game they just won. Guess what, Jesus? Guess what? I totally cast out a demon. It was like, be gone. And it worked. It was so awesome. Then another one says, I can top that. I prayed for this one guy, and he was like this crippled guy, and he actually started walking again. I had people lining up to get healed. I don't know if that's how it really was or not. But what you got to see here is it's this huge season of meaningful productivity and real accomplishment of important things. But then look what happens next. Then, because so many people were coming and going, they, the disciples, did not even have a chance to eat. He, Jesus, said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." Now, at first glance, I know it looks like the disciples were doing what we do. Work, go. They even forgot to eat. They're not taking good care of themselves. So Jesus steps in and says, hey, let's get some rest. It might look like Jesus is leading them to rest from a place of work. But see, they knew Jesus better than that. They'd been with him. They'd seen Jesus start his day by getting up early and making room for alone time with the Father. And please don't hear that and go, yeah, Jesus prayed a lot. No. That's not the point. Before he did anything, Jesus spent time in prayer. And prayer is something that happens in a place of rest. And see, his work flowed out of his rest. Is this making sense? Are we tracking here? Jesus worked from a place of rest. He didn't rest from a place of work. And yeah, Jesus took one day a week where he didn't work to Sabbath. And so he could experience a whole day of Shabbat Shalom. But also throughout the week, he worked from a place of rest. He made room for rest. That was a big rock in the jar of his life. And he made sure that went in the jar first so that there was room for it. And if you want to get what this whole making room for rest, this whole Shabbat Shalom thing is about, let me just give you one verse to zero in on today. It's this one right here. Be still and know that I am God. In fact, let's say this out loud together on 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Be still and know that I am God. Again, be still and know that I am God. Famous verse. How many have heard that one before? Okay, you've heard it before, maybe seen it on a refrigerator magnet or whatever, but what does it mean? Good question. Thanks for asking. Here's what it means. Be still literally means cease striving. Cease striving. Somebody say, cease striving. Cease striving. Cease striving. Stop with the go, 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 work, work, work. Work. Cease striving. And then when it says, and know that I am God, it's not saying, and believe in God or remember that there is a God. It means to encounter God, to experience God, to draw close to God, to come into conscious contact with God and the good things that God brings into our life. And see, there's a whole lot of what it means, when it's talking about knowing God and encountering God. There's so much of that I just can't do when my jar is, full of striving. There's just not room for it. If I'm going to experience rest, I need to cease striving. Are you with me? See, there's shalom, there's peace, there's wholeness, there's goodness that I can't experience without Shabbat. No Shabbat, no shalom. All right? Shabbat, shalom. No Shabbat, no shalom. But being still, ceasing striving, don't think about this stereotypically. It doesn't mean, like sitting cross-legged, meditating or something. Ceasing striving, being still, it's about ceasing our striving, hitting the off button or at least the pause button on all this stuff that we tend to always be doing. And to cease striving, here's a few particular things that I think we need to cease doing to make room for rest. Any guesses what the first one I'm going to say is? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the little rectangular thing that's always in our pockets. Or maybe always in our hand. You know what I'm going to say? To rest, there needs to be at least some times when we cease from our smartphones, or our iPads, or our laptops, or whatever portable electronic devices that we've become surgically attached to. Don't misunderstand me. I love electronic stuff, but they don't exactly make room for rest, do they? I mean, who's texting me? Who's tweeting? Who's emailing? What's happening with my favorite team on ESPN.com? I do. I love electronic stuff. But if I want to know God, sometimes I got to cease texting, cease tweeting, cease emailing, cease Facebooking or whatevering. It's interesting to me. A few years back, the high priestess of American culture, Oprah, of course, challenged families. She did like this research thing where she challenged families to go one whole week with no cell phones, no computers, no television, no video games. And one participant reported this. They said, I think the first day or two it's a shock, but we really adjusted, and I think as long as you don't treat this as a punishment, it really is a better life. And it's fascinating, you guys, because all the families that participated in Oprah's study reported an interesting outcome: a better, richer, fuller life. Tell you what, let's do. Everybody take out your smartphone. Come on. Take out your smartphone, and let's all just do something right now. Let's all just power them down. Okay? I don't mean silence them. I mean power them all the way down. I'm powering down. Powering down. Where's that little thing that comes up that says it's time to power down or that it's working? All right, there it is. Sliding it over. Okay. Powered down. Is everybody's powered down? Okay. How's that feel? Anybody getting the shakes yet? I mean, come on, it's going to be okay. There's less than a half hour to go in the service. Just cease having your smartphone on just for the rest of this time today. Just as a little Shabbat Shalom practice. I mean, Sabbathing from our electronic devices, it's recommended by Oprah. So it must be a good idea, right? But seriously, be still, cease striving, and know that I'm God. Next thing to cease striving from. Cease from multitasking. I don't know about you, but I'm almost never doing one thing at a time. I'm watching TV and checking my texts and the sports scores and talking on the phone all at the same time. And of course, yes, I admit to texting while driving. I know. Stupid. Shame on me. and to move towards rest. What about this? What about when you're watching TV? What about if you watch TV and that's all you did? Watching TV without doing something else at the same time. Or what about when you're doing something? You just do that one thing. You know, when somebody calls you and you're doing something, what about actually sitting down and taking the call and cease cleaning or typing or whatever other 14 different things that we do and just talk on the phone and nothing else? Cease multitasking. See, we need times when we can cease multitasking to make room for rest and add peace to the jar of our lives. Be still, cease striving, and know that I am God. All right? Next thing to cease. How about cease hurrying? Famous American philosopher by the name of Will Durant, he has this quote I like a whole lot. He says, "No man in a hurry is quite civilized." No man in a hurry is quite civilized. Isn't that true? I mean, I don't even want to think about how many times I've snapped at my wife or my kids or whoever just because I was in a hurry, let alone how many speeding tickets and fender benders I've gotten into or almost got into just because I was in a hurry. I mean, doesn't hurrying all the time make us all kind of, well, jerks? I mean, to rest, we need specific times when we cease the striving of hurrying. Many experts call stress-related disorders hurry sickness. But see, when I make room for rest, when I work and live from a place of rest instead of the other way around, it's going to include some times when I intentionally cease striving by ceasing hurrying, I should say. Be still and know that I'm God. All right, last thing to cease from during, at least sometimes, and that is to cease decision making. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, we underestimate how making even basic decisions like, where are we going to eat, what show are we going to watch, what are we going to do next, how stressful that is. Decision making of any kind requires a certain kind of mental and emotional energy that drains us, even if it's a good decision we like making. So we need to set aside time for rest that includes as few decisions to be made as possible. I mean, imagine a day or a part of a day where all the decisions are already made, or whatever decision hasn't been made can wait to be made. I want to share with you a story of a family who is learning what it means to cease striving, a family who Sabbaths a whole day every week, a family in our church who takes a whole day where there's no work, no errands, no smartphones, not even any cooking. They prepare their meals ahead of time, so all they have to do on their Sabbath is eat them. Here's their story in the words of the mom. My initial reaction to Sabbath was, seriously? I had 2 boys under the age of 2, a new home, living in a new city, and I worked outside the home. I had a distinct sense of frustration about my frenzied pace. So it irritated me that God wanted me to be still and know that I am God with all that I had to accomplish. But I did want to get the monkey of busyness off my back for at least a day. So my husband and I began to hold 1 day a week sacred. No laundry, no cleaning, no cooking, no working 1 day per week. I may need to clean the house and get the crock pot loaded up and prepare until midnight the day before to ensure that it happens. But 1 day a week, we Sabbath. We read, pray, play, and sit on the 7th day every week. It is my guilt-free day off. My son, who's now 3, asks every day, "Is this a Sabbath rest day?" Because he knows that he'll have my undivided attention on those days, and my husband and I know we will have each other's as well. Sabbathing gives me perspective on my life to separate what's important from what is merely urgent. God's presence flows into my day and into the rest of the week in a way that is absent when I don't stop once per week. Even on my busiest days, I know that I'm never more than 6 days away from stop day. Sabbath, stop day. I love that. more than anything else in this series, I just got to tell you, this is the thing that I make room for least. This is the one that I am the worst at, that I have the most room to grow. I'm just telling you, I rarely do what God says to do when he says, be still and know that I'm God. But I'm trying to grow in it. I'm trying to make room for it. I really am. Because the longer I live, the more I realize that to have the kind of life that Jesus has for me as one of his own, I need to work from a place of rest, not the other way around. Rest comes first, or it's not going in the jar. Each week during this series, we've tried to help everybody make room for life by presenting you with a dare of some sort. And today's dare is not just a dare or a double dare. This is a triple dare, triple dog dare. Here's the first dare. If you want to start small, just take one dare. Take just a daily dare. Start your day each week. Start your day each day this week with one sentence from that Bible reading plan that we've been talking about. You can find it on our website, or somebody at your campus can help you know what I'm talking about. It's the Bible reading plan. And just look at it and pick out just one sentence and read it to yourself a few times and reflect on it and meditate on it to start your day this week. And read that one sentence from the Bible. Your phone's off, your computer's off, the TV's off. Don't do this while driving down the road. Car is off. Eliminate the distractions of work, multitasking, decision-making, hurry, and technology. Unless, of course, your Bible happens to be on your smartphone. Then maybe we'll give you a pass on that one. But start small with just this week, and at the beginning of the day, begin working from a place of rest. And do it by reflecting for even just 5 minutes on one sentence from Scripture while doing nothing else. Be still and know that he's God to begin your day. In fact, how about doing it every day between now and Christmas? I dare you. Here's the second dare, the double dare. Take one afternoon or one morning of Sabbath rest this week. Starting this week, evaluate it and going, which is the best day for me to do this, and which is the day for me to Sabbath, and then Sabbath just one afternoon, like say noon to 4, or one evening, say 6 to whatever time you go to bed. Just one afternoon or one evening this week, Sabbath. And see what it brings to your life. And if it brings good things to your life, I challenge you, I dare you, I double dare you to have one afternoon or one evening of Sabbath each week between now and Christmas. That's the second dare. Now for the third dare, the triple dare, the triple dog dare. If you're up for it, why not? Take the plunge. I'm going to talk to my wife about it. We haven't decided yet, but I got a hunch. Between now and Christmas, Sabbath, one whole day a week. Sunset to sunset, or sunrise to sunrise, whatever you want to do it. 24 hours of rest, just like that family was sharing in that testimony. I dare you. I double dog dare you. I triple dog dare you. Actually, I triple dog dare me. And look, this is not, what's at stake here, folks? This is not just about us working ourselves to death, figuratively or literally. Sabbathing is about knowing that it's not up to us and our own abilities to get stuff done and make things happen for life to be full and good. Sabbathing teaches us to trust that God can take care of us and that real life comes from God and not ourselves and our own efforts. It's kind of like this t-shirt I saw one time. On the front of it, it said, Theology 101, there is a God. And then on the back it said, and you're not him. Listen, this is where God's trying to lead us, to learn and to know and to experience that he's God, that he can be trusted, and that it's not up to us and our own efforts. There is a God, and I'm not him. And because I'm not God and I'm not in charge and it's not all up to me, I can dare to rest, to cease striving. And when I make room for rest, I not only get less stressed, I get to know in a personal way that he is God and I'm not. And that's making room for life.